Hello, Purple People podcast fans. Welcome to episode 606, question mark. I think that's the right number. I don't know. We've been doing this for a long time, though. That's for sure, Adam.
600. That's wild.
Yeah, I know. I can't
A
believe it.
lot
And
of numbers.
we do this once a week. We're not one of these shows that record 5 times in one day and number them chronologically. Like, we are once a week. So, over 600 episodes is a big deal for us. We've been doing this since Christian Ponder was the quarterback, right?
That's true. It's pretty wild. And
Yeah,
we
it's
don't
wild.
have Kyle Smith with us today, but he'll hopefully be back for our next show.
Yeah, he'll join us. So, we got Adam Carlson and myself. We are manning the fort. Today, we got some off-season Vikings news that we're going to cover. A little
Mr.
bit of
Smith
Kirk.
is in Ohio on assignment.
Yes. A little bit of top secret government work, I am going to claim. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about Kirk Cousins, a little bit about the Vikings offseason, a few other topics that you're going to be bringing up for us. And I am looking forward to it. I am looking forward to football, Adam.
Well, you brought up Kirk Cousins, so let's start with him. The big thing for him right now is that he is on Quarterback Season 2 on Netflix, which I didn't watch Season 1, and I don't plan on watching Season 2.
Well, I watched all of season 1. It is a really fascinating show. I enjoyed it. Season 2 has came out. I think, 3 episodes into season 2 so far. I really like it. I enjoy the behind the scenes look at all of these players. They're all in different stages of their careers. So that's fascinating to see how they handle their different situations and whatnot too. And kind of what I like about it, Adam, is that the players featured on there. Okay, Joe Burrow was one of your top 3 or 4 quarterbacks in the league. He's one that you probably would pick, if you were going to do this kind of show. But Kirk Cousins and Jared Goff are not the like immediate names that I would pick out to feature in a documentary. So it's fascinating, I think, to kind of follow around those players because it's different from your Patrick Mahomes or your Aaron Rodgers that you hear so much about,
Or your Baker Mayfield.
or your Baker Mayfield.
But yeah, I mean,
Personally,
when you think about entertaining, Kirk Cousins doesn't immediately fly to the top of your list.
he doesn't, but for all the shit that we give Kirk on the podcast, like I will always say that you look at him just off the field as a person, as an individual. Kirk is a really good like human being. He comes across as really genuine, a real nice guy. Like you cheer for him as a person, like his family, his kids. Like he's a real good guy off the field.
Now, I haven't seen the show, but I've seen some of the quotes, and it sounds like he is really kind of regretting his decision to go to Atlanta.
I was surprised about how honest he was with that in the very first episode, within the first maybe 10 minutes of it, when they're interviewing the different players. Kirk talks about the decision to go to Atlanta. And he essentially lays it out that him and his family wanted to stay in Minnesota. He was looking for more of a long term contract. He felt that he had earned that at his stage in his career, which I don't blame him for feeling that way. He said that
But I can also see
Minnesota.
like the other side of that argument where he hasn't really accomplished what they wanted him to, and he's made a lot of
Correct.
money. I can see both sides of that argument there.
And he talked about how the Vikings were only willing to offer him kind of, hey, we'll give you a 1 year contract. We'll see how it goes at the end of that year. We'll reevaluate and maybe we'll give you another. So they were looking at it more of a year to year basis. Atlanta obviously wanted to give him that longer term, fully guaranteed deal, and so that was why he went with them. And he did say, uh, he did flat out say that had he known that both franchises were going to draft a rookie quarterback, and ultimately, he got benched in Atlanta for Michael Penix, that
Right.
he would have just stayed in Minnesota. Like he probably would have preferred to just stay in Minnesota and take that backup position.
He seemed happy here. It was a good spot for him. He would have been
Yep.
a really good mentor for JJ McCarthy, but I understand he's at his twilight years in his career and wants to start as long as he can and make as much money as he can. And I get all that. I do.
Kirk is a competitor. He is a perfectionist and a competitor, and he wants to play, and he wanted to get out there and prove himself. And he still believes that he is a starting caliber quarterback in this league. And I don't fault him for any of that. Ultimately, I do think that the Vikings made the right decision in letting him go. I would not have wanted to see them tie up Kirk under a big contract. I think that you're giving the keys to JJ McCarthy for a reason. That's why you drafted him. But man, if there would have been a scenario where Kirk would have been willing to kind of stick around as a backup, that would have been a kind of a no drama good situation for him as well too.
Have you gotten to see anything about him possibly talking about like his recovery from that Achilles injury?
Yes, they do cover a lot of his recovery for that as well too. There went your kitty. I seen the
Oh
tail
yeah,
go
he's
across the
going
screen.
wild.
Uh, he does talk about his recovery. He I think he was 100% physically. I don't think that that was any issue with him. Like he came back from that, I believe, just fine. To me, he talked about his struggles in learning that offense. It was a really complex system. It was different than what he was asked to do in Minnesota. He was asked to run a lot more at the line in terms of motion and checking players in and out of different positions, and he readily admitted that he struggled learning that offense. So I do think that maybe it was not the best fit for him on what Atlanta wanted to run. It was one of those scenarios a little bit too where perhaps the Falcons could have done a better job of pairing their offense down and meeting in the middle with one another on this is what Kirk is good at running. This is what we want to run. Let's find a better middle ground with it. Like I don't feel like there was enough proper communication between Cousins and the Falcons on both sides on what Atlanta was doing in the draft. Not that they had to tell Kirk; they paid him handsomely,
Right.
and also just kind of on their offense, on maybe them not 100% being on the same page.
But I do understand him feeling like a bit misled in the whole thing and why he went there because he thought he was going to be a starter. But with the Achilles injury too, like I was saying, sure, the physical injury of it is one thing, but the mental recovery of an injury like that is another. Like a lot of other positions in the NFL, if you have a serious leg or knee injury, ankle injury, whatever it is, Achilles,
Yeah.
sometimes your mind will make you play a little differently just because that injury is in the back of your head, and you have to
And
get out of that mindset.
right on. And you do wonder how different it would have been if you pretend the Vikings didn't draft JJ McCarthy, so that's not even a question, and like Kirk was just coming back to Minnesota to be our starting quarterback. I think he would have played probably a lot better than what we've seen in Atlanta because his wife Julie and Kirk both talked on camera. They were sitting on the couch or whatever, talking about how it was really difficult for them to kind of watch the Vikings move on without Kirk, and how when he was watching McCarthy and Darnold in preseason throwing to Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, Kirk even said like, "Well, those are my receivers. I should be out there throwing to them too." So it was a lot of stuff that went wrong for Cousins in Atlanta, where like you said, it's it's a new facility. You're learning new players. You're learning a new offense. You're coming back from an injury. You probably really didn't want to leave the place you left. That's a lot of hurdles for Kirk to overcome. And it's funny how you always got knocked for defending Kirk, for being a Kirk Crusader. And in a way, I still kind of feel like I'm defending Kirk's season in Atlanta, where I understand why it didn't work out for him.
So, what is the vibe you get about Kirk from watching that? Do you like pity him a little bit? Do you feel encouraged or empowered about him? What's the kind of vibe, the feel?
Kirk comes across to me as just a real genuine. He's a competitor. He wants to win. He wants to go out there and he wants to play at the best of his abilities. And I don't think you can ever knock him for any of that. I think that you feel a little bad for him in the sense that I understand where he's coming from on maybe not wanting to leave Minnesota and feeling like Atlanta wasn't upfront with him about what they were doing at the quarterback position in the draft. You do kind of feel like that's a conversation that they should have had with Kirk. At the same time, he was paid incredibly well to go to Atlanta. Like they compensated him very, very well to come and play for them. So I don't feel super bad for him because of that.
But it's got to be really different to go from a place in Minnesota where you got a newer stadium, fantastic training facilities, and everything like that, to Atlanta where, yeah, they got a newer stadium too, but a lot of their other amenities and other things aren't up there where Minnesota's are at the moment. That's got to be
Right
a
on.
real change.
And it's hard to know from just the little selective snippets that they show of training camp and preseason and in the locker room. His interactions with the players seem a lot more awkward, I think. Uh, he's Kirk is he's a very Midwest dad,
It's
is
not really
how
like loose Kirko chains down there right now.
he was kind of trying to lay into that persona a little bit, and I feel like that kind of naturally evolved in the Minnesota locker room, where it was kind of a funny, almost tongue-in-cheek Kirk Chains kind of thing, and the players understood it and he understood it. And when you see him kind of trying to do that in Atlanta, it just maybe it's not as genuine and it feels a little more forced and a little more awkward. And when Kirk is out on the field and he's talking about wanting to listen to Celine Dion and wanting to listen to Creed and all this other stuff, you can kind of feel the players around him not really giving a shit
Yeah.
of like we don't you're the new guy, we don't really care, we don't really gel with this, where he that fit more in
Like how in
Minnesota.
Minnesota they'd be talking about, okay, what's your favorite Nicolas Cage movie and all that, kind of like
Yeah.
friendship stuff. And
Yep.
in Atlanta, it does seem like more of work, business first, less
Yeah.
of a more casual approach.
Yep. And I'm not knocking the Falcons or the Falcons
No,
culture
it's
or
just different.
any of their players at all. It's just different. And the Kirk kind of being the Midwest dad vibes that he has fit very well in Minnesota and with the Vikings. And I'm pretty confident that he's going to be one of those players that when he retires, I could see him and Julie and his family moving back to Minnesota, back in the Twin Cities. And I think you'll see him on the Vikings Entertainment Network. I think you'll see him just kind of around the franchise. I think that
Oh yeah,
this is where they want to be, and it's where they fit in really well.
there probably isn't a lot of talk about what Kirk Cousins is going to be doing this season, what his role is going to be, what his future holds. There's probably not a ton of discussion about There's probably no talk at all about possible trades and things like that.
I of course I haven't finished the season yet, but you do also got to remember that this was filmed, last season. So if there were any talks of like, after he gets benched or trades or whatever, that would come towards the end of the
Yeah.
season. And I also don't imagine that the Falcons were probably entertaining trading Kirk. Well, they probably couldn't have traded Kirk by the time Michael Penix was named the starter for him last year. So I don't really think that's going to come up.
Because Michael Penix did look good, and you know, Kirk Cousins will have to beat him out. They're not going to give Kirk the starting job just because they're paying him big time. If Penix plays like a better quarterback, he is going to start.
I
I think.
assume I assume Penix is going to be going into the season, the preseason training camp, as their QB1. I don't imagine that they would have made that move, to bench Kirk and to start Penix to roll back on it. like the following year.
So
Like you
when you
have,
look at like what you spent to bring those guys in, it's completely different because Kirk Cousins' salary cap, Michael Penix is a first round draft pick. How do you weigh those two things against each other?
yeah, I know, and they did. Atlanta kind of did the opposite of I feel like what you're supposed to do. So they drafted their rookie quarterback. They drafted Michael Penix. He's supreme. No matter what you can say about him, he's supremely talented. Like he has all of the tools that you're looking for in a rookie quarterback. So they got their guy. They're going to give him a shot. Where they messed up is now they don't have that rookie pay scale that usually comes with a rookie quarterback because they are also paying Kirk
Right.
that big contract as well. I to me, it feels like if there's a starting quarterback that goes down in training camp in preseason, Kirk has got to be like the guy that other teams would look towards to try to make a trade to bring in as that top veteran not free agent, but like acquisition, right, Adam?
But it would be insanely hard to try to trade him because not only are you going to have to eat some of that salary cap that when you trade him, you're going to have to try to get compensation, and you have to get him to agree to the trade for where it has to go.
Right. And I do kind of think, okay, so getting Kirk to agree to a trade might not be that difficult at this point with him being benched. Maybe there's a little sour grapes. Maybe he's probably a lot more willing to go to another franchise right now. I think that that contract is what would really be the hang up because if you look at the situation the Vikings were in when we traded for Sam Bradford, we gave up what was it, two first round picks for
Yeah,
Sam Bradford, but you were not taking on a huge contract.
exactly.
So if you are another team, I'm not giving up two first round picks to bring in Kirk Cousins because my starter went down and take on that big contract. So
Exactly.
that is your big sticking point with him. If I have to take on that big contract, I'm giving you like a 6th round draft pick and maybe a backup player to bring
Because
in.
the Pelicans will have to do that if they want to move him, and it's not going to be fun eating whatever amount of that contract they have to eat and getting less compensation than they thought they were going to. It's going to hurt them.
It's a bad situation. I think for all the parties involved in that one. We got a good question here in the chat, Adam.
We do. Bob Swede on YouTube says, "Hey guys, should we bring in Kendricks? He's a free agent." I actually wrote about this on the Viking Age yesterday, or did it publish this morning? I think it might have published this morning. The fact that he was a starter in Dallas last year, led the team in tackles, has been healthy, been able to do what he can. He's 33 years old. I mean, if Minnesota didn't have two established starters, I'd say bring him in for training camp right now. But the problem is that a team is going to be looking for a starter. Maybe Kendricks is looking to start. I'm not sure what the issue is there, but there's not really a solid reason why he isn't on a roster in my mind.
Right on. I didn't realize he was only 33. Now I know that's getting up there a little bit for a linebacker, but like there's still, I think there's still some tread on those tires.
Yeah, he showed that last season in Dallas. Yes, Dallas's defense last season was bad,
Right.
but Kendricks wasn't the reason.
And I think that kind of maybe at this stage in his career too, he's not necessarily looking to jump at the first opportunity that comes his way. Like he doesn't really need
No,
a
he's done
full
enough.
thing.
His resume speaks for itself. His experience. He's a solid linebacker. Maybe that's not why. Maybe teams are looking at him and saying, "We don't need him in training camp because we know who he is."
Right. If you can wait a little bit and if you can kind of be choosy, and if there is one of the top tier teams in the league, if the Baltimore Ravens, if your choice right now was to play for the Baltimore Ravens, who are, they're always going to be a Super Bowl contender with Lamar Jackson out there, or the
Yeah, I wouldn't
New
blame
Orleans
Kendricks one bit for wanting to chase a ring.
or the New Orleans Saints, who are calling you on the phone right now, and you have no idea what the Saints are doing at quarterback. Like they look like they could be really hurting this year out there. Like I wouldn't. Like I'm if I'm Eric Kendricks, I'm not jumping to play on the Saints because I'm hoping that maybe a team like the Ravens or the Bengals or the Chiefs, maybe even the Vikings, are going to give me a call on the phone a little while down the line and fill in. I would be totally okay with Kendricks coming back to Minnesota. Like you said, I don't think we need him in that starting position, but if something should happen and you can bring him in as kind of a backup reserve player, there's some tread on those tires. I think you can get
Yeah,
some
I
production
actually
out
agree
of
with you
it.
totally on this. He shouldn't
Yeah,
be in any hurry to get on a roster. If a team calls him and he doesn't think it's the best fit or the best situation, wait it out. What's
yeah,
the rush?
and there's no rush for him.
And while we're talking about former Cowboys, there was a little bit more news that came out. Apparently, Coach Prime in Colorado, Deion Sanders, is trying to coax Mike Zimmer to be on his staff.
That's one of those like, yeah, we all kind of guessed that was gonna happen
Well, the
eventually.
anticipation was that Mike Zimmer was going to retire after last season, but there hasn't been anything official on that. And yeah, he might be retired, but like I said, there's been no official confirmation, and he is still free to do whatever he wants. If he feels that's a good situation where he can go and have fun and win football games, he might do it.
I my feelings on Mike Zimmer go back and forth. I don't think he handled a
He's
lot of
69 years
situations.
old now.
Yeah, I don't think he handled a lot of situations with the Vikings correctly. Uh, but there for a while, man, we got a phenomenal defense
I was a
underneath
big fan,
Mike
and like,
Zimmer.
oh, they brought in a hard nosed coach with some old school football mentality. After that locker room in Minnesota where everything was just going wild and we had arrests constantly, I was like, okay, this is what we need.
And that was what we needed at that time. I know it didn't work out for him. Going back to Dallas, it kind of looks like his days as a defensive coordinator in the NFL are over. But I tell you what, man, Mike Zimmer, just on a personal level, dude's been through a lot of shit,
He
like
has.
a lot of shit, man. So if he can find a position on Deion Sanders' coaching staff out there, maybe working with the defensive backs, like more power to him. Mike Zimmer he still has a hell of a lot of knowledge out there. He would be an asset to any college program. I even still think at some level Mike Zimmer would be an asset even at a pro level.
And he deserves to go find his happiness. He's worked hard. He hasn't been dealt the best cards along the way. I admire him for what he's been able to do. Yes, in Minnesota, his relationship with Rick Spielman and everything, that fell apart real bad. The two
Yeah,
were just not on the same page whatsoever. But that's one instance where I'm like, okay, that didn't work out. Yeah, in Dallas, his defense struggled, but I don't know how much that was him, as how much that falls solely on his shoulders. For
yeah.
him to go down to the college level and become a assistant under Sanders, he might be interested.
It'd be a fun fit for him. Like I said, man. Like I even think even at a pro level, if you had room on your staff for Mike Zimmer as a defensive backs coach, like
Yeah, I wouldn't.
that's
I don't know if I'd bring him in as a defensive coordinator or something, but
I
special
wouldn't.
assistant or position help, something like that, would be great.
Yeah, there's a hell of a lot of knowledge with him there. Like you said, the thing with Spielman, that takes two. That takes two for a situation to deteriorate the way that one did. I don't think either of those guys were as professional as they could have been. I do fault Mike a lot more for kind of how he handled the quarterback position, how he handled Kirk. Um, there was something going on with his offensive coordinators as well too that he probably could have handled a lot differently. But
But I
it,
thought that was interesting that Mike Zimmer does have someone out there pounding the table to bring him in. And I'm
it,
interested to see what happens there because that is a possibility.
him and Dion have always been real close friends. They've always had one another's back, and so Dion is real big on friends and family and looking out for the people closest
And
to
we
him.
mentioned Kendricks about him being a free agent, and there's another Vikings free agent that is not signed, and we're kind of wondering why. I know Dalton Reisner took a little while to hook on in Minnesota on both times,
Hmm.
but apparently he met up with John Gruden at the airport, and John Gruden gave him such a glowing endorsement. I guess they met up at the college level, and they what is that Senior Bowl? They worked together,
Yep.
and he absolutely loves Dalton Reisner and said, "If you need a lineman, come get this guy right now." It was such a nice little piece because they seemed like friends, you know.
Yeah, that's always cool to see. I don't know what it is about Dalton Reisner that no team has really been willing to commit to him. It feels like it's always been, we'll give you a 1 year contract midway through training camp and
It's
bring
really
you
weird
in.
because he seems like a good guy. He does a lot for the community. I don't know
Right.
what if there is a red flag. I don't know what it is.
There must be some kind of intangibles that coaches don't see in him that they're willing to commit to him long term. I never felt that Dalton Reisner did terrible in
No,
Minnesota. Like he was serviceable. I
he did good.
if anything, the issue with the Vikings and the Vikings offensive line is we've been good but not great for quite a while, and we've kind of just been serviceable. And it reached a point where you just needed to clear house and just move on from a bunch of guys.
And let's be
And
honest, the previous regime could not draft an offensive lineman in the interior for the life of them.
no, they tried. They
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 sure did.
tried.
They spent a lot of picks.
Yeah. And to be fair, the current regime has kind of struggled a little bit on drafting linemen, and that's a tough position to bring in, Adam.
I'm pretty
So
excited with that first round pick this year, though.
yeah,
Fingers crossed.
yep.
All right, so let's get into some little bit more sad news, maybe. But the Dallas Turner news about him getting scammed out of almost $250,000, uh, it was just wild.
You hate to hear that, and it's so easy to get taken advantage of.
People are getting scammed all the time.
Yeah, it's not just. I mean, it can happen to anyone, as you can see. Uh, that's why we always say, I've always heard, and we'll share the info here as well too. Like, anytime if someone ever calls you on the phone and says it's your bank, hang up immediately and call your bank on the phone.
Yep.
Like, don't take anyone's word, don't give any info, don't do anything. Either call your bank on the phone, or better yet, drive to your bank and talk to them in person and verify what's going on. Like, never ever give out any details.
And it's not like Dallas Turner isn't going to make a lot more money in his career. He's such a talented player. He will do fine, but it sucks this happened to someone who is just coming into some money and trying to establish himself, and you know he was trying to do the right thing most likely.
Well, yeah, I mean, shit. If you get a phone call that tells you, like you said, you're coming into your chunk of money for the first time, and you get a phone call on the phone that says, "Hey, someone is after this." You try to do the right thing, and he tried to transfer funds to different accounts to protect it, and it turns out that like that's where the scam was getting him to transfer it. Uh, you just hate to see that. You hate to see people get taken advantage of like that.
Absolutely. It stinks that people are out there like that. And while we're talking about bad situations like that, did you see that Miami Northwestern has suspended Teddy Bridgewater for giving impermissible benefits to his players?
Yeah, Kyle Smith was bringing that, who's I believe with us right now in the chat as well too. Thanks for joining us here, Smith. Yeah, he brought that up in our group chat earlier today, and you talk about a story just being frustrating as hell. I still really don't even get what Teddy did that was wrong.
According to everything I've read, what he did was he paid for things for players like Ubers to training camp, uniform and equipment, and field maintenance, food, and it doesn't sound like he was doing anything wrong.
So he was paying for the program out of his own pocket. He was
Right.
saying, "Hey, let me take care of these high school kids. Let me
Yep.
make sure we've got up to date equipment,
That
up
they
to
get to
date."
the game, they get where they need to go, they're fed, they're doing okay.
Yes, he's doing everything that traditionally, when I was in high school, we had a booster program. And the booster program was donations from sponsors, local businesses, people, whatever. They could come up to you or I, Adam, and you could donate money to the booster program that would go specifically towards the high school football program. Teddy, wasn't he just doing what a booster typically does?
It sure sounds like it.
So what is I don't understand why he's being he they're
Can't they just
acting
tell
like
him, hey, you can't do it this way?
they
Donate the
were
money to the school
acting
and let the school pay for it. That why hand down a suspension?
why punish the kids? Why punish the kids who they love Teddy as a coach, as a
And
person?
to see someone like Teddy Bridgewater, who has some money, he's doing all right. He had a
Yeah,
pretty solid NFL career, and he wanted to use it to help kids. And he takes his time to go, you know, coach at a high school, and this is what he's dealing with.
we're talking high school football. That's the ultimate. I just want to give back to the community. This is not
Because he gave a
I
kid an Uber to a game.
yeah, this is not I want to coach at a college level and I want to become a coordinator in the NFL and use it as a stepping stone. We're talking about like the high school level. This is the Teddy Bridgewater giving back to the community, helping kids have a positive mentor both on and off the field. That's Teddy Bridgewater. Like, and it's not he was he was not paying players. Like, I feel like they're punishing him in the way that you would punish a coach, like if you were trying to pay high school. Like, hey, I'll give you X amount of money if you sign up for the football program. No, we're talking, like we said, about him giving
Why is
nice
Teddy Bridgewater
games.
paying for field maintenance?
The school probably wasn't doing it.
Absolutely wild in my mind. Absolutely wild.
It's ridiculous. And what kind of message? What kind of message are we sending to our kids when we punish someone like Teddy Bridgewater for trying to help the community out?
I don't know. It
Like,
doesn't feel right, does it?
no, it really doesn't.
So let's move on and
We
talk
had
about
a
Randy Moss a
real
little bit because I like Randy Moss. Do you like Randy Moss?
real quick. I got to tell you a real quick story, Adam, that
All right.
ties in with this Teddy Bridgewater thing. So we had someone here in town who put up like a big metal sign on the side of their garage for the high school football team. It said we're the Webster City Lynx, and so it said Lynx Country. That's all it said.
Right.
And the city made a gigantic fuss about it because it was against some local city code, and you had to take the sign down. And it turned into this big, huge fuss with people talking about why can't you have a sign promoting your high school football? All no advertisers, no sponsors, nothing derogatory, just Lynx country. Like, hey, like we're Lynx country, like way to go high school football team. And like they had to take the sign down
Wow.
because the city forced them to take the sign down. And it's the same thing that people brought up that I'm wanting to bring up right here with the Teddy Bridgewater thing, where it's like, what kind of message are we sending to our kids when we're telling them these are the things you can't do? When it's just a pure positive, no ill will, no nothing. I think that is what's super frustrating about it.
And when Teddy Bridgewater sees a kid that can't afford a ride to the game or doesn't have the parents
Doesn't
that
have
are
food,
at home to do it,
right?
what's he supposed to do? Just say, okay, I guess you don't get to play.
Yeah, I guess that's the country we live in now, where it's like, oh, well, we're not going to feed our kids in high school.
Wild.
Yeah,
Absolutely wild. So TMZ Sports, I get to bring up a double header on this one because, well, before we talk about Randy Moss, let's talk about Adrian Peterson, who I know you love to talk about.
oh God, do we
So
have to?
last time we talked about him getting in that altercation at a poker game and fists flying, but apparently he has signed on with a boxing promotion to have a boxing match against that guy at the poker game.
Adam. Once upon a time, Adrian Peterson was one of my favorite Minnesota Vikings. He really was. Like, I loved watching him on the field. He was a phenomenal player. He was probably the last non-quarterback that you're going to see win the MVP. Like, that doesn't seem like the thing that's going to happen again anytime soon.
If Saquon didn't do it last year, it's not probably likely.
Yeah, if you're not giving it to Saquon Barkley after that season, like, I don't know what a non-quarterback has to do to win that award at this point. Uh, the off the field issues started with Peterson. There was there was always weird things with like camels and birthday parties, and that was always, well, he has a lot more money than you and I do, and sometimes you live in a different world when you have that much money. And then the off the field issues started, and the suspensions, and the being retired and getting into fights and DUIs and
And
cele-
bankruptcy and all that stuff.
bankruptcy and celebrity boxing. And this isn't even the first time. Who did he fight? Not
He
Antonio
fought
Brown.
a running back. The
Bell? What was his name?
Steelers running back.
His Bell was the last name,
Yeah,
right?
Le'Veon Bell.
Le'Veon Bell. He fought Le'Veon Bell in just a
And didn't
circus.
Bell beat him?
Yeah, it was an absolute circus shit show fight that looked terrible. I am
So
not
how
at
does this
all
work
interested.
if Adrian Peterson actually has this fight against this poker guy and he loses to the poker guy? What does this
He
do
just
for him?
he just gets beat by some guy. Adrian Peterson, the absolute beast of a player that we watched like run and
And he
stiff
was a
arm.
freak of nature. I mean, he was so athletic, so strong, so fast. I can't imagine him losing anything almost. And anything
Remember the
physical, I can't imagine it.
remember the play against the Cleveland Browns where he ran and he stiff armed the guy and shoved him to the ground and
Oh,
then
yeah.
continued the run, like an absolute And there's a chance now that he's just going to get beat by, like you said, some random dude in a celebrity boxing match. Like, I am
And
not
what's
at
funny is
all.
that Adrian Peterson's like, the media always tries to make money off me. They're doing all this, and then he goes and does this stuff.
Yeah. And what's a shame, dude, is that we talk about this all the time about how the Vikings and Vikings fandom, we treat our retired historic players of this franchise incredibly well. Like, a player like Chuck Foreman has made a second living on just talking to fans and signing autographs and being around during training
Oh
camp
yeah,
and
he has
doing.
a lot of appearances. He does well.
Adrian Peterson doesn't didn't have to be doing any of this.
None.
No celebrity boxing, no bankruptcy. All he would have had to do is do some affordable autograph signings, not charge $100 for a scribble and
Well,
two
the thing
hundred
is, like
dollars.
down in like Oklahoma and stuff like that, up in Minnesota, he
Yeah,
could still charge $100 for an autograph and a picture, and people would have paid it.
yeah. All he would have had to do is go that route. Just go around Minnesota and do the autograph circle and circuit and just be available, and he would have been embraced. He probably still could be embraced by Vikings fans. I feel like, but it's just disappointing seeing him do all of this junk off the field. And I brought it up to you guys in the private chat. Does this actually hurt putting Adrian Peterson in the Vikings Ring of Honor? Does this actually hurt his chances of going into the Hall of Fame when it starts to become a circus sideshow off the field?
You know, that's a great question because I am not sure. If you'd asked me based on his performance on the field, if he was going to in the Football Hall of Fame, oh yeah, he goes in.
First ballot,
But
he goes in. Yeah.
with all this other stuff that's happening on the side, is he still that guy?
You start to enter, for better or worse, the same kind of conversation you had with T.O. and even with Randy Moss. Guys who should have been, just based on what they did on the field, first ballot Hall of Famer. But there was a lot of other stuff. There was a lot of other baggage that went with T.O. that kept him out. And that does influence the voters. And I do think the suspension that he had and the reason why he was suspended is going to hurt Adrian Peterson. And I do think that these kind of off the field shenanigans, we'll call them, are going to hurt his chances of being a first ballot Hall of Famer. Particularly, I think with the Vikings Ring of Honor, that is kind of like, yes, you're being honored on the field for what you did for your accomplishments, but that also means we're bringing you into the Vikings family to represent the Minnesota Vikings off the field, to be a captain of this franchise, moving forward within the community and doing all these things. And do you really want a guy who's still getting DUIs and a guy who is doing celebrity boxing to represent the Vikings? Like, I don't know,
Right.
Adam.
Because the Vikings used to be a team that character wasn't a major concern, but that is no longer the way the franchise views their players, past or present. So like
I,
something like that with Adrian Peterson, I don't know what the response is going to be.
I do think that, if you're going into that Ring of Honor, that means you are representing the Minnesota Vikings for the rest of your life. You are being that captain of the team, that someone that we're bringing into the fold, and it means we really don't want drama with you. Like Jared Allen,
Right.
I think he's the most recent guy who's came into the Vikings Ring of Honor. Jared Allen, uh,
And don't get me
there
wrong,
were
Jared Allen has made his mistakes in the past.
right. That was what I was going to say. He had his issues when he was with Kansas City, but all of that has cleared, long since been cleared up. And I don't think there's been any kind of issues with Jared Allen off the field in
No.
ages now. And so that is exactly the kind of guy that you want to represent the team and the community, off the field, and be a part of it and do all the off the field things that you expect your Ring of Honor members to do. I don't know if Peterson is ready for that.
I'm not sure either. I'm not sure when his eligibility is going to be. Apparently, he is still a free agent. I mean, he isn't retired from the NFL, so
Yeah.
I don't see his phone ringing anytime soon, but you
Yeah.
never
No.
know.
It makes me wonder. I don't think the Vikings have used the number 28 since he left the team. There may have been an oddball kind of like,
Yeah,
we're
like a
filling the
training camp number.
we're filling the roster during training camp and everything is full and we're going to give you 28 for a day and you wear it and then we take it back off. I think that's maybe happened once or twice, but I don't think any player has been like
Yeah, I definitely think
signed.
retiring his numbers off the table.
That's where I was going with this. Like, I think retiring anyone. I'm over jersey retirements, kind of like on the whole right now, but I do think that we could probably just put 28 back into circulation.
Yeah, it's time to get that back going.
It's let's get that going. If we're using 84, and I don't have any problems with 84 being in rotation either, uh, we can let 28 go out there.
So, more TMZ sports news. Apparently, Randy Moss thinks that Justin Jefferson is on pace to be the best receiver ever. Not just the greatest Minnesota Viking player to ever do it, but the greatest player, the greatest wide receiver ever.
If he stays healthy for the remainder of his career, he is certainly in that conversation, and he has as good of a shot as any to break.
And don't get me
And
wrong, Randy Moss was fantastic. He has as many claims to being the best wide receiver in history. I believe, as Jerry Rice, I think those two could have one heck of a debate as to who is the best ever to do it.
I,
But to have Randy Moss come out and say, Justin Jefferson might be better than me, wow.
yeah, and I don't think that's an empty compliment coming from a Hall of Famer and a Vikings Ring of Honor guy who is like pumping up the current crop of players. Like, that's not an empty compliment. Randy Moss doesn't give empty compliments out like that. Like,
No.
you never would have seen him. Let's pick on Jerome Simpson. The Vikings signed Jerome Simpson in free agency, and that was the big move. Like, you never heard Randy Moss come out and say, "This guy right here, like, he has the opportunity to be the next big thing." just because he was the guy that signed in Minnesota. Like, no, like that was not in his wheelhouse to just kind of give those
No.
compliments. Like, if he is talking that way about Justin Jefferson, he truly believes that he has that possibility to go out there and be the greatest receiver of all time. And I do think so.
And I don't know if you've been watching any interviews and stuff lately with Randy Moss, but he seems in such good spirits, so high and ready to come back. Did you see him talking about coming back to NFL Countdown and how he joked about not being excited to see Rex Ryan?
That's really cool to hear, man. Like, cancer is a hell of a scare for anyone. That will humble anyone, dude. So it's so good to hear that he's came back from that. He's recovered from that.
I'm excited
Gives
to see
you a
him come through this season. I love that you got Moss segment so much.
Oh, me too. I love Randy. I love the way he's got that thick Virginia accent that he talks. It makes him so different from what you would expect from him. Just his personality, his true personality of being
Okay, while we're
the
talking about accents, I know this is not Vikings related one bit, but who is that receiver for the Carolina Panthers who has such a southern accent that you can barely understand him? Is it Leggett?
Oh, yes, that's the one that you're talking about. Yeah, he's the one that Adam Thielen said he's the translator for
Yeah, so he has to
everyone.
translate for him.
It's the most hilarious thing. You can fall down a well of just watching videos of him. He is the most interesting guy. He brought raccoon. Like, sh- you know how you can shave beef jerky and you can make beef jerky
Oh
into
yeah.
like little shave thing? He brought shaved raccoon meat. And when he was questioned about it, he was like, I am not sharing this with anyone. I am not sharing this with any of the reporters. And everyone was essentially like, dude, I don't want it. I just want to know what it is. I love that. I
That
love
whole
that
thing
shit.
is hilarious. I love it.
Absolutely hilarious.
So let's finish up by talking about another Vikings legend, and I don't know how much you've heard about this, but apparently Chris Carter was recently kind of critical
Yeah.
about Chad Johnson, and that brought out Asante Samuel, who came out and said that Chris Carter is overrated. He is the most overrated player in the Hall of Fame, and that he's just a possession guy.
That is absolutely ridiculous. There's no basis to that. That's just bullshit. We've talked about this as well too. I think that Chris Carter is also now, like, his era is now far enough back that I don't know if a lot of younger fans know how good Chris Carter truly was because they didn't watch him play. They didn't really see the highlights of Chris Carter, and that does even spill over a little bit into younger players. Maybe not truly realizing how good Chris Carter was on the field. And these comments, though, this is just a
Well, it's
player
funny
sticking a.
because Chris Carter responded back on his podcast. He said, let's address this first. Was I a possession guy? Yes. I caught the football. I didn't get a lot of yards after the catch. But when I caught the football, I was in the end zone. I was scoring points. And was I a possession guy? Oh, yeah. But I was probably the best possession guy out there ever to do it. And I can't really argue.
Honestly, underrated might be a term I would use to describe Chris Carter at this point because I don't know if he gets enough credit for being as good of a player as what he
But you see a
was.
lot of the credit and highlights and, everything going to the speedsters, the guy that beats the coverage and gets the 90-yard score, or the guy that can break ankles and, take a 10-yard pass and turn it into a 60-yard touchdown. Carter was never that guy. He was never that speedy guy. But if you needed Carter to catch football, he'd catch your football.
I'll never understand knocking a player for being more of an underneath playmaker, kind of like what Carter was as well too. Like, that doesn't make him any.
Actually, I got to give him a little more credit for being able to succeed in a league where if you don't have that breakneck speed or the ability to break ankles, To be that possession guy, to get open to score when you don't have those kind of physical traits, it's kind of amazing that he's been able to have the career he did, end up in the Hall of Fame, end up in the Vikings Ring of Honor, and be a media personality and just be an all-around legend in football.
And let's not forget that Chris Carter was going across the middle in an era where you could decapitate a wide
Oh,
receiver for going across the middle. That was a different game that Chris Carter was out there playing when he was doing it and succeeding
and
at a
Chris Carter would
high
mention, he'd be
level.
like, I had multiple seasons where I scored double-digit touchdowns. Said, you know, Chad Johnson, he had one.
Yeah, Chad
So I
Johnson
don't know
doesn't.
what Asante Samuel was trying to do to protect Chad Johnson or defend him. I don't know if they're friends or what the situation is there, but coming at Chris Carter like that was not wise.
I mean, does anyone here think Chad Johnson is a Hall of Fame wide receiver? Because
He
I
was
really
really good.
don't. Yeah, he was really good. Hall of really good is not a thing. Like that doesn't exist. Hall of people that you recognize doesn't really exist. Last time I checked, it was the Hall of Fame for the top tier, the elite level players. Like I don't necessarily think that was Chad Johnson, Chad Ochocinco, whatever he's going by these days.
But it's funny because you don't see a lot of players coming at football legends like that. Calling them overrated, saying
That's
that,
the
okay, he got tackled as soon as he caught a football. Well, that wasn't his game.
that's the weird sort of social media instant gratification era that we live into, where it's
And
also
Asante Samuel was like, what is Chris Carter going to scare a defense into doing? I mean, he's not going to break a tackle. He's not going to run past you. Do you know what's going to scare you? When he's dancing on you in the end zone.
yeah.
I mean, I don't think Chris Carter was much of a dancer, but he was scoring points.
Uh, I don't know. It's online beef that doesn't really hold any true weight, I don't think.
Sometimes you wonder if, like, some of this beef is all, like, premeditated, where the agents get together and, like, okay, we got to get these people talking about us.
You gonna call it scripted?
I didn't say that word, but I'm not going to not say that word.
It's as real as a Jake Paul fight.
Oh.
Or Logan Paul. I still don't know which one is in the WWE.
Logan Paul's in the WWE, and he
Oh,
is going to be in a match at SummerSlam, taking on. It's going to be him and Drew McIntyre taking on Randy Orton and Jelly Roll.
I hate that so much.
Jelly Roll.
not not a fan, Adam.
I'm trying to look at the feed over here, but my cat just loves standing right in front of it. So if I'm doing this a bit, sorry. But we have gone over 50 minutes, so I think that's pretty good for this episode.
Yeah, I think we can wrap it up. I'll let you start that whole process for us, Adam.
You can check us out over on or check me out over on the Viking Age. We got some great content. We got some new minds and new ideas going over there. If you haven't checked us out in a while, check us out again, because there's quite a bit of news going on for it not being a news time. And if you're a Vikings fan, there's going to be little nuggets over there that you can keep interested in and keep up on everything that's going on. So do that. You can check me out on social media at MNVikingZombie. That's on Twitch, X, TikTok, everything. I try to keep the same name everywhere.
You can check me out at Vaguely Square over on Blue Sky. That is my social media platform of choice. Haven't been posting as much lately, but we're doing a little horror movie discussion earlier this morning with some of my followers on there, so you can give me a follow on there if that is your thing as well too. Real quick, I did want to say I downloaded the new NCAA College Football 26 on the old Xbox. And if you are a college football fan, I think it is well worth checking out. It's a lot of fun.
Have you had the field goal glitch yet?
I haven't had the field goal glitch. What is that?
The long snapper snaps it to the holder puts it down, the kicker just does not kick it.
Oh, just like in real life.
The kicker just stands there, and the offensive line does whatever it can.
No, but I have had the oh, I might be getting too old for certain control schemes in video games now
Oh
moment,
no.
Adam. You'll get a chuckle out of this one. So I haven't played Madden for quite a few years now. That game kind of went to shit. So I am like, this is the first time I've played a football game in 7 or so years now. So it's been a little bit. I did not realize the depth of the control scheme that they are
Oh yeah.
on. I am used to Madden being like, you drop back in the pocket and your receiver's open over there, and so you hit the L2 button and you throw it to your open receiver. And now it's like you have to be an offensive coordinator and do all your adjustments, and then you hit back and you hold L2 and you can
Do you remember
position
when
where
those
you
games
throw
had
the ball.
vision cones where you had to like take your quarterback's vision and make him look the direction of the wide receiver?
Well, now you can like control the arc of the ball and you can lead the receiver by doing this and throw this pass and do this thing. And I'm like, I, truth be
I
told,
just
don't
want
want
to
to
play a
do it.
game.
I just want to play a game. I don't want to be an NFL quarterback.
But I do want to thank everyone that joined us in chat. We did have some people here that were with us the whole time, and I always appreciate that. You guys are the best. Thank you to everyone who commented or over in the chat. We always love when you guys bring up stuff because it gives us more stuff to talk about. We love that. And we'll be back. Might not be 1 week, might be a little longer, but we'll be back to talk more Vikings football soon. And in the meantime, stay classy, Minnesota.